was not allowed to admit in a hospital, but then she was referred from one hospital to another. Until unless she go through this COVID-19 screening, she was not allowed, to be admitted. And at the end, FIR was even lodged against her, for not going through the screening, and she was put in the room where there were many people with this virus, coughing, and then she was put there for the whole night. Now, again, the next stage is the denied entry or refused of groceries. Now, look, it is not only about the Northeast people, but then, yes, the case that we received was was in Mysuru, where two boys from Nagaland, they went to buy some groceries, and then they were denied entry. Then, in spite of showing their Aadhaar cards, the identity cards, saying that we are very much from this part of this country, they were not allowed to enter. They were refused groceries. Now, in this case, even if they are foreigners, even if they're from China or Korea or from any other Southeast Asian countries, I mean, why would anybody allow a denied entry? Why would anybody refuse to buy essentials or groceries? So this is the question, the larger question that we need to think about. Now, the last one is evictions. Evictions is now happening, like whoever look mongoloid, and then the house owners are saying that, you may be somebody, who will be spreading this virus. So they are trying to evict these people and telling them to leave the apartments. So these are the series of, racist tones and abuses that has been happening. And my only worry is that especially for people from the Northeast who doesn't really have a support system, if they're kicked out, then where will they go? So and then also this may radicalize the rest of India minds, and we really don't want to give any kind of negative minds or negative message when they go back home. We want them to carry home a positive message. So that is the only thing. And as we all said, that coronavirus doesn't have any religion, any caste or creed or higher law. But then, anyone, all of us can be attacked, or any one of us. We really have to collectively fight this through. And I'm sure, we will be able to overcome this. So let me end with this and then wait for the questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elena. I think it's an amazingly important, points, and we'll definitely take it up. So can we go to the next speaker? Can we go to Sneha, Dr. Sneha?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. And I'm mostly going to talk about my personal accounts, like things that I have faced as a doctor. Like, it's mostly not because I'm a doctor, but because of the way I look. Like, because in this city, like, people don't consider that people with features like us could be Indians. Like, the most recent account was when I was working, and there was a staff in the hospital. He asked me, "Bahar aapko koi kuch bolta nahi hai kya ki aap corona leke aaye ho?" And I was like, I just jokingly said that koi mujhse aisa bolega to mujhse maar khayega. And in Marathi, he spoke to like another of his co-worker. He said, "Dekho, ye log corona bhi leke aayenge aur bolenge ki humko marenge bhi." This was like 3 weeks back. But ever since then, like when I'm at work, otherwise, no such problems as such. And when it comes to like my coping mechanism, when I personally face racism, I divide people in two kinds. Like one, they just had no idea. Two, they do have an idea, yet they choose to be mean to us. So when it comes to people number two, I'm more aggressive. Like, but if someone does not know about the Northeast, I do take some time and explain to them, see, like this is Northeast, this is how we look, these are the number of people, the variety and all these things. Like, I prefer educating them. And like once that's done, I've noticed that they're like so much nicer to you, like so much nicer. Like, and if anyone else is being racist toward me, they take a stand. They're there with me. They tell them, "You're not supposed to talk to her like that. She's like part of our country." That's like the good things about it. Otherwise, it's very normal to be asked कि आप इतनी अच्छी हिंदी बोल लेते हो, आप चाइना से सीख के आए हो, कि इंडिया में आके सीखे हो. Like that's like almost like happens weekly, more than weekly, like twice to thrice a week. Like these are like when I have to go out. Like otherwise at work, I put in attempt to learn Marathi. So they ask me like if they can learn my language. So I teach them my language. They teach me their language. It's like good amalgamation. We exchange our culture. We exchange our languages. That way it has been a good journey for me. But then, to be honest, like I faced more racism in Mumbai than I had done in Delhi. I was in Delhi for a year, and I've been in Mumbai for the past 2 years. In Delhi, the amount of people from the Northeast is like more. So more and more people know that there are people like us. But in Mumbai, considering how the number of people from the Northeast are way lesser, like they kind of don't even have an idea where Tripura is. Like if I tell them that I'm from Tripura, they're like, "Madam, ये क्या नेपाल में पड़ता है क्या? Like नेपाल में पड़ता है ना? नहीं नहीं नेपाल में नहीं है." And then they'll be like, "तो चाइना में पड़ता होगा." नहीं नहीं चाइना में भी नहीं है, इंडिया में ही है. And like मतलब नेपाल के पास होगा. Like it's nowhere close to Nepal, of course. Then I put in effort. I show them the map. I get asked if you eat momos for your breakfast. And like, तुम लोग ऐसे सूखा सूखा rice कैसे खाते हो? Like cultural questions. But over the past few years, I have developed the amount of patience that I have now to explain to them. And like once they are educated, I've noticed that like the discrimination goes like way down. Like the day-to-day people passing a comment on my food habits, my lifestyle, that totally goes down. So like I guess like a lot of um, strategy to survive in a new city where people don't know where you are from, that you are an Indian, you have to be really patient. And personally, I don't feel like aggression is the way to go about it, because like out of 100 people, 90 people don't even know where I'm from, hence they assume. So once I tell them, educate them that about Northeast, they are much more friendly. Now that's it. My experience so far has been good that way.
Thank you, Dr. Sneha, and we'll come back to you with questions. I'm sure the participants are thinking about the insightful things that you've shared with us. So can we go to the third speaker, Kezo? Kezo, are you there? Can we see you, Kezo? Unmute. Can we, Kezo?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can we see you, or is it possible?
My net is a little slacky, so but I'll still try to put on the video.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Don't switch on the video, then it's fine. Yes.
Okay. Is it better? Is it okay?
Kezo, I think you should just stick to the audio because
Yes.
you get stuck when you're using the video.
Yes.
Okay, right. I'll do that right away.
Okay.
Okay, is it better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay. All right. First of all, good evening, Dolly. It's a pleasure to be with you here in this platform again. To all the eminent panelists that is present amongst us, and also to the participants. And also thank you, Team Shaalaa, for this platform and opportunity. The topic that has been given to me today is to speak on past legal experiences of working with cases of harassment and abuse of Northeasterners in Delhi, specifically on that. But just before I go into the case study details, just to highlight the participants on who the Northeastern communities are and what are we. So Northeasterns, we are of 8 states: Assam, Arunachal, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, and Tripura. And we all differ in our traditional practices, customs, cultures, and also ethnicity. We differ from the other states of northeastern India. In as much as we ought to have celebrated these differences amongst us, what has happened is this has only led to separation rather than integration, politically by way of AFSPA in the region for more than half a century, and also no economic development leading to economic imprisonment of the vast communities present here, and also socially by way of discrimination in various forms upon this group. So when I talk about discrimination, it could be all the verbal issue, the derogatory remarks, violences against certain community because they look different or they happen to appear differently. And if you also understand why we have a lot of Northeastern going from our home to the metropolitan cities due to lack of education, plus also to have better exposure and also to have financial economic stability amongst ourselves, and also as a means of survival. Economic stability mostly because since there's a grave issue of employment problem in the Northeast, we mostly go to the urban cities for sending back this money to our families to sustain them, who also comes mostly from the rural population. And over the years, there has been a large increase of this issue of Northeast migrating from from Northeast to the metropolitan city. Studies conducted by the Northeast Migration and Challenges Faced by Northeast Support Center and Helpline in the year 2009 to 2010 itself states that 86% of Northeast people have faced racial discrimination in the city. And also another study conducted by the Jamia Ismailia University uh, has stated that from 2005 to 10, around 4,14,850 people from Northeast migrated to Delhi alone. And this is just the Delhi statistics that I'm giving. And why Delhi is because it has been the most preferred place for a lot of the Northeast community apart from other cities. And also the Manipur Gun Survivor Network, which is spearheaded by Ma'am Dina Lakshmi, has also stated that around 2,75,250 population came for education purposes and 1,39,600 in pursuit for employment. So we can already have an understanding the huge migration that is being faced by this community when we come to metropolitan cities. And to top it up, there are certain challenges and problems that are being faced in terms of vulnerability and sense of insecurity because of their cultural differences. That is one, and wrong perception of the northeastern communities, which only further aggregates, alienating this community even afar. And plus, discrimination in their workplace, and it could be in sexual harassment during the workplace, discrimination by the law agencies when they don't have any aptitude towards such communities, and also discrimination due to our food culture and food habits, and often discrimination in terms of residential accommodation as well. We are often not given accommodation because we tend to eat stinky food, or we look different, or our cultural habits are somewhat not compliable with what the norms in society of the metropolitan cities demand. That is just a very brief gist. And then case studies and experiences, I'll just come. I'm sure we're all aware about the Nubu Kanya case that have flared turmoil and a lot of, and which has pricked the conscience of the Northeast communities and mass, where a young boy of 19 years of age was brutally beaten to death just because of his looks. And apart from that, when the police had come and intervened into the matter, they did not take cognizance immediately. Rather, they just dropped him to the locality where he was beaten up to be only succumbed to the injuries, and then he unfortunately died from that incident. And I think based on this, the Best Borough Committee was also constituted, but I'm sure Alana will also delve into it further in detail. But based on that, the committee was formed. But how effectively the committee is been forming, that is, we are yet to see the light of the day because of no implementation, a very less implementation. Case has already been filed in the Supreme Court, where Alana is also the petitioner in this present case, which is still pending. And furthermore, another northeastern case. This lady, she was a resident, and she was the only daughter working, supporting her family home from Manipur. She was raped and she was brutally murdered by the landlord. And this case, when I was in Delhi, was taking it up very closely. The police initially refused to register an FIR, and plus on top of that, they ruled it as a case of suicide for the lady. But what was most shocking was that the door of the entry door of to the apartment of this lady was shut from the inside. The only entry point was through the house owner balcony, towards the balcony area, where apart from that, no other insiders could have access to it. So when the girl died in uh, suspicious conditions and situation, the door was always locked from the inside, so nobody had access or entry to that. Police did not comply with the investigation. The owners were apparently very influential people in the colony, and it was a great frustration and also a lot of task to have dealt with it. They refused to file a fire only after staging mass protests and after staging dharnas. Then only the registration was filed by the case was registered by the police. And another case is of three young boys on the 12th standard. They finished their exam and they wanted to have a farewell gathering with their friends. So it's common for us to have a small gathering at the end of every examination. So it was just one of those occasions. After finishing that, they were returning back to their homes. The police arbitrarily came and arrested them put them under various sections of the Indian Penal Code, which was irrelevant, and then they were booked. They were booked, and the police came up with various reasoning, saying that, oh no, they broke this glass, they did this, they destroyed school property, and all this kind of a thing. And this was in the year 2015, where a lot of issues, political issues, were also being cleared up amongst various communities, and that's how these three young boys were also uh, booked by the police and through arbitrary investigation and by the police agencies. Another case was sexual harassment at workplace. So a lot of our Northeast women also, they go outside the city to work in beauty parlors, in saloons, in spas, and to work in dhabas, so on and so forth. These two young ladies were asked by the manager to give him a massage as part of the interview test, and they were innocent and naive, and then they were like, okay, I think this is part of the interview procedure, and they had to give him a massage when he came without any clothing on his body. And then after that, only such kind of favors started to demand, from the side of the managing authorities in a hotel. It went on for about 6 to 7 months. They couldn't take it anymore, and when they finally raised an issue and complaint against the authorities, they were immediately terminated from their job. We also raised the question saying, how is it that the complaint has not been entertained? We want to know whether the internal complaints committee has been set up or not. But only after writing of that complaint was the internal committee set up by the board. And what was more surprising and shocking is that the perpetrator himself, who had asked such kind of sexual pleasures from these ladies, he was sitting amongst the committee and then in the board. That is another thing. Furthermore, taking the complaint forward, when we went to file the police complaint, the police and all, they said, "Arey, you, आप लोग तो ऐसे ही होता है. You guys work in the beauty."
1 minute. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, am I audible? I
Yeah,
hope I was being
yeah,
audible.
yeah. So can you like bring it together? Yes, yeah. And then
So they would say that, yeah, you people working in beauty parlors, this is what you guys do only. There's like stereotyping plus racial profiling and character assassination altogether. And they had to go through so much of a difficulty at one point, up to the extent of frustration that we don't want to pursue this case anymore. Even we come up with so much of courage to address this issue, but somehow I feel the law is also falling apart. Those are the grievances that I've stated. And these are people that we're talking of not having white collar jobs or very well established also professionally. But what is more shocking is that such discrimination also happens within the legal fraternity itself. Why? Because having to represent the cases in court, I'm not saying all judges, but most of them are also very apprehensive, and they already have prejudices of mindset. When we represent cases of racial discrimination issue, and then they come up with least interest mindset of not even wanting to hear the cases properly. That is another thing. Another issue was a fellow colleague of mine.
can you wind it up in a minute so that we can open it up? Yeah. We'll take this up. We'll take up the legal details that you're telling us. But I think I'm looking at the audience, and for a lot of audience, yeah, just in a sense of just rounding it up from the legal perspective. Yeah, for the discussion.
Yeah. So even from the legal perspective, the legal fraternity as well, even the courts, the lawyers themselves, they have faced issue, in terms of such kind of harassment. And when we come to legal perspective, India as such, we still do not have a racial law in place to tackle this kind of escalating issues that has been happening. This Bora committee is there, but effective implementation is still lacking, for which a case has been filed in the Supreme Court already. Yeah, that is what it would be when it comes to legal perspective and parameters. No specific measures and the difficulties that has been faced with the past legal experiences. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm so in awe of the cases that you mentioned, the ongoing cases, and your knowledge about what happens within the legal world, and looking at this very difficult issue of racism, how the police looks at it, and how we are trying to make sense of it. So what I'm going to do as the moderator is to open it up to the audience, because what we want is really a conversation. And Joel has
Dolly, Dolly Miranda is here on a loudspeaker.
Well, I like it, man. Like, she's on a loudspeaker, so let's go. Let's get her before we lose connection. And so we will go to Miranda now, surely.
Yeah, Miranda, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't really prepared anything. What do you want me to talk about, Joel? And I'll start taking things out of my memory and tell you my stories.
Yeah, start from there, perhaps. Yeah, start from there, Miranda.
What do you want to start off with?
You have 5 to 7 minutes in terms of sharing your experiences as a panelist on the topic of being a migrant and looking at issues of gender and mainly discussing racism. And you are somebody who has been really out there vocal about it, writing songs against racism. So share with us. Share with us how you got there, who you are in Nagaland, and you have come to the national stage, and how is it that you're looking at the national stage in terms of your features being different and yet taking on such important themes of race and of citizenship?
Okay, so I can barely hear you, but I'll just say whatever I could hear from what Dolly said. As a kid growing up, of course, the dream was to be a doctor and an engineer, because that's what everyone said. Everyone said you either become a doctor or an engineer. But secretly, I always wanted to be somewhere in the creative field. I always wanted to make films. I always used to wish that I would become a filmmaker one day. But I thought that, okay, that's just a passion that you keep, and realistically, you're supposed.
We lost her. Hello. All right. So perhaps she'll come back, but hang on. People are texting me, Joel. They're saying that you're not letting them in. Have you kept it at 100?
It has got capped at 100. I don't know how.
Yeah. So what do I do? I apologize to people, or anyway,
Yeah.
your Shaalaa thing. Oh no. Yeah. So a lot of people are unable to join, and I leave it to the hosts. They're all trying to join in. So yeah, without being distracted, and you can see how important the topic is. And I guess perhaps try to open it up more, to more people. But we'll get back to Maren when she has connection. And to keep the conversation going, I'm going to open it up to the audience. How about you identify yourself, and then you tell us, where you're from, your name, and the question for the panelists. So in terms of panelists, we have 3 online now. One is Kezo, Alena, and Sneha. So the floor is open. We take the first round of questions, perhaps around 5, 6 people. Yeah. So it's a show of hands. So please go ahead if you have questions for any of the panelists, the 3 panelists.
Shaheen wanted to ask some questions. Shaheen, you can. Hello, Shaheen, can you hear us? You can ask. We have unmuted you now. Yeah.
Can you?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Doliba. Thanks for such a great discussion. And I mean, staying so far away from India, but actually understanding the lived reality of racism through these experiences has been very important. But I just had one question for Dr. Sneha. And
Shaheen, sorry, can you introduce yourself, where you're speaking from and what you do?
oh yeah, hi. Sorry, I am doing my PhD in Monash University at Melbourne. So I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. So I had a question for Dr. Sneha. It's a very simple question because I just
Wait, someone is asking a question.
Joel, you have to mute yourself.
You'll have to.
Yeah, hi. So, Dr. Sneha, it's a very simple question, but I just wanted to ask you something about your lived experiences and everyday experiences as a doctor. Have you ever faced racism from a patient? And if you have, how have you worked around it? Has there been any instances where you've had to use institutional measures? Or have the institutions that you've worked in, have they been understanding? How does the institutions, like medical institutions in India, understand racism? What has been your experience? If you could just share something, that would be great. Thank
Okay,
you.
Yeah,
thank you.
thanks for the question. Yeah.
Hang on,
To be honest,
Neha, wait,
yeah,
let's take some more. Yeah, yeah,
some more? Yeah, sure, go
yeah.
ahead.
More questions, yeah. Um, do we have anyone? Show of hands, or we have one here. And if Jyotiraj Pathak, who is this for? How to overcome racism against Northeast people? It's already late. Do you think multiculturalism is the answer? So do you have a specific panelist you're asking this to, or is it open? All right. So there's a
Yeah,
participant.
it's open.
All right.
It's
Okay.
open.
It's for panel. Thank you. So,
Yes.
Elena, perhaps I can give you that. I can give you that question. Would you like to take up this question? Right. And let's take one more question or a comment or yeah.
Yeah,
Stan, go
yeah,
ahead. We have two participants who raised their hands. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Stanzan. I'm from Ladakh, and actually, I'm doing PhD from JNU New Delhi. So I don't have much question, but adding to Elena's point, that people from Ladakh are also facing racial discrimination. So I have been, experiencing racial discrimination right from my childhood days. First time when I came to Delhi during my schooling days, and those days immediately it was the first first day of my school in one of the public schools in Delhi, and then students flocked to me and said, are you from China? That was my first experience. Like that, there were in colleges also, like I did my engineering from Delhi, and then there also, all the Northeast students as well as we, and also, those who look Mongolian, they were all, being ragged and asked to, say things in Hindi. So that was obviously a huge, kind of mental, you can kind of, pressure, and so that that impacts the whole, performance. That we started believing that we are actually not Indian. That was like kind of feeling which was really very strong. And even after that, then I started working in Mumbai. I did my MBA also. So they also, there was this kind of as Sneha said, that there's this particular racial kind of slurs. So they one of my I used to work for one of the large manufacturing kind of companies. So there also I was told that we have to think before we recruit people like you. So I just want to share all this kind
I
of
get
small
what you're saying. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks,
yeah,
Stan. And
yeah,
I think
thank you.
this is perhaps a comment, yeah, that you are reiterating what Elena has been forcing us to think and consider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you. So we have two participants. Amba, I can see your hand. Go ahead.
yeah. Can I? May I? Hello.
Yes, please. Yes, please. We can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm Yojok Tamang. I'm from Kalimpong, that is in West Bengal. So yeah, like racism takes place everywhere, like in India as well and everywhere. So in our safe spaces of Northeast states, racism does occur there even, right? So even my experience in like Shillong is like the people in Shillong are calling one of the ones with a Indian feature, maybe a Bihari. So they are referring to them as like a Bihari. So he was a driver. So I mean, my point here is like racism occurs everywhere. Okay, that's that. But what we need to, I think, what we need to address here is that the Indian imagination of the Indian nation itself, where the ones with the Mongoloid features are never taken into consideration in the imagination of the mainstream Indians. I think the one aspect is because of the visual representation in media and even in mainstream, how the complete absence of the ones with the Mongoloid features itself also leads us to imagining the imagination.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. So we should, I can see Amba's hand. Can you please speak?
Yeah, hello. Hi, my name is Amba. I'm from Nagaland and lovely to be here. My question is a generic question. Basically, see, based on my own experience as a student in Delhi in the late 80s and early 90s, those were days when people's awareness about the Northeast was even lesser than it is today. However, in those days, cases of racial discrimination or racial abuses were very little, and we did not have as much issues as we're getting to hear it now. What do you think could be the reason? Is it because of the way people say it's because of the way we dress and the way we move around, and that in those days people are noticing boys and girls were more conservative and they tried to mix around a little bit more. What do you think would be the issue? It's just a
Okay,
question that I would like to open up.
thank you. Yeah. Okay, so
Thank
I'm
you.
going to, Joel, I want you to actually look at the participants who are there, make a chronology so that you help me for the next round. Amba, before I give the the chance to our panelists, your question is very, very insightful, and I would like to jump in. Right, I studied in Delhi. I went to Delhi to do my undergraduate studies in '94, and I was very young, and I I think the younger generation now who are coming up and speaking up are courageous, and there was a movement. There was a movement for decades, in a sense, to talk about racism in India. I can say for sure that I faced horrendous racist attitudes towards me in Delhi since '94. I remember that even to buy rice, even to buy dal, even to buy oil to make my food, I didn't stay in the hostel. I didn't get hostel seat. I stayed in a rented house. The shopkeepers would ridicule us, would laugh at us, and they would make sure that we stand at the end of the queue. At 17, I had no clue that was racism, right? And after they would let everyone buy their food, their rice, their dal, they will not still take our money. They would look at our body, they would let, and finally they would give us food as though they were doing a favor to us. So it went on and on, horrendous thing. Remember that between 1994 to 2000, actually even the Supreme Court of India recognized sexual harassment as workplace as offense very late, after a lot of protests happened. And so the 90s was a horrendous time. So for students from the Northeast, and particularly female students, I remember my entire undergraduate life, including my time at law faculty in Delhi University, was filled with dharnas. And I don't say that we protested alone. Teachers from Delhi University, the gender forum, the forum against sexual harassment that was there all around, came together. And if you look at the logbook in Maurice Nagar, right? In Maurice Nagar police station, look at the logbooks from the 1990s and look at the horrible sexual harassment cases that went on. I filed 2 FIRs myself as a student of law in Delhi University against people literally grabbing me, pulling me down from the rickshaw. So it was a horrendous life. And I see what you're saying in terms of, I think, the change in attitude for the younger generation. I think a lot more people are speaking up. A lot more solidarity groups are coming up across India. So I'm happy that that we even have a forum like this online talking about this today. So having said that, I give the time to Sneha. Shaheen had a question for you, and then to Elena. Yes.
Yeah. The first question, as a doctor, if I face racism from patients, I get questions, yes, very frequently. And each time a patient comes to me, it's a different country. Like once it would be Malaysia, next time Philippines, next time Thailand. It's like variety of countries. They just assume that I'm from anywhere else apart from India. And once the funny thing was also like, there's a senior doctor who's a gynecologist. Like, so she had operated on someone, and the same patient had come to me for blood collection. And she asked me, "Aapki amma bhi doctor hai? Aapki amma ne hi mera operation kiya tha." So just because she she was a Chinese descendant who lived in Maharashtra, and she had mongoloid features, the patient assumed that she's my mother. And it's very common for patients to confuse between me and my colleagues from Northeast. Like a random patient even ran and came to me and was like, "Madam, आपने जो दवाई लिख के दिया वो मिल नहीं रहा." And I'm like, "मैंने कब आपको दवाई लिख के दिया?" It's just my senior from Mizoram in the ENT department. She's the one who had prescribed the medicine, but the patient was after me. Like, "आपका दवाई मिल नहीं रहा, मिल नहीं रहा." And I'm like, "मैं नहीं थी," and he was still after me. So basically this comment like, "You all look the same," it's so confusing. Like sometimes I do jokingly say, "You all look the same" as well. I get confused too. Like sometimes humor helps, because it's not possible, like it's exhausting to it's like days when I'm aggressive, there are days when I tell them about the Northeast, but there are also days when I'm like, "Oh, let it be today, I just can't do it today," because it's so it's a routine. It happens like every 2 days, every 3 days, like something or the other. And someone had asked why there's more news on racism lately. I do think that it's because more and more people are migrating out of the Northeast lately. Not per se lately, but gradually over time. And number two, because we are being more vocal lately, more and more vocal, more and more people speaking up about it. And number three, I think it's media as well. Like one person speaks up, and also the community mentality that we have. Like we even have a WhatsApp group with people from Northeast in my campus. So like anyone needs help, we run and make sure that this thing gets done for that particular person. Like that community mentality, I think it's more of a survival instinct though. And I want people to understand that racial identity is a normal thing. It's a normal thing for me to feel the need um, to have people of my race around me, culturally similar, this sense of belonging. It does not mean that I am discriminating people from other races as well. And because I'm not against people celebrating their own culture, it's only when you're being offensive, it becomes racism. Segregation is always not racism per se, it's just sense of identity. So just that, it
Thank you. Elena,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, let me just take over. How to overcome racism, So this one will be in three stages, okay? Because one, which we also have already mentioned in Best Barua Committee report, because one has to do with mindset. So this is going to be a long term. Second will be a medium term, and also one will be a short term. Now, one thing which we're asking for is amendment of IPC 153C, which says that if a person is discriminated or called names like Chinky, Chowmin, Momo, Chinese, okay, or any other racial slurs, then that person has to be penalized and also should be cognizable, which means non-bailable, okay? Now, this one will really send out an exemplary action, will also send out a very strong message. Now you see the case of a young Manipuri woman who was spat upon in Mukherjee Nagar, North Campus, Delhi University. The IPC was only 509, okay? So which means after the arrest of this person, within 24 hours, he got bail. So these things are very easy, so they take it very lightly. That is why they are not actually, serious about it. We know we'll get it. We know we'll just be free after some time. So that is how this is one. So we need a very strong law. Number two, as we have been saying about introduction of the Northeast, which is about the culture and about the people, not only about mentioning one or two freedom fighters in the textbooks, including like in the textbooks of NCERT, but the government need to look at this very, very seriously. And also there should also be a teacher training, not only in the books, so that the teacher should take it very seriously and teach about, the region and also about the people, their food habits. So all like the entire gamut of education needs to be looked at. So this is the third. Number four and number three, three is we need a sensitization. We have been doing from time to time. I've been taking classes for Delhi police. I've been taking classes in the, in all this where young officers, before they are given their assignment, so all these things have been happening, but we need to do a mass awareness in the Residential Welfare Association, with the Residential Welfare Association in different pockets in Delhi, with the local people, and also in monumental places, because that is where most of us face a problem. Even after showing our identity cards, they say that you're not from this part of the country. Even I myself face it. You go to Taj Mahal, you go to Agra Fort, you've been facing that. So even in those places also, we need to do a lot of sensitization. So I'm sure something will change. Maybe from now, 10 to 20 years from now, I'm sure the younger generation, we can be positive about it, because the old people will go, but the old mindset, it is, so strong that it is very difficult for them to accept us, the Mongoloid face, because this is not the genuine face, not the acceptable, or maybe our face is not Indian enough for the old generation, so this is something that we can think of. Now, the other question somebody raised is racism in the Northeast India. Yes, we should not ignore this part. A lot of racism is happening in Northeast India, but one thing that is that is why we have been asking for anti-racial law. Anti-racial law should be pan-India. If anybody is facing any racism in the Northeast or in North India or South India, then the person, if it is the racially motivated abuses, then that person should be penalized. But I think till today, the government is not really willing to take this up. But still, we are also pressurizing, apprising that there should be anti-racial law for the entire country. Now, somebody is talking about somebody was called Bihari because the person came from Bihar. But let me give you a small difference here, because if a person is from Bihar, then the person can be called he is a Bihari because he is from Bihar. A person can be called a Madrasi because that person belongs to a Madras, not in a racial way. But tell me, is there any place in a country where you are called by the name of food? Because we are being called chow mein, momo, okay? Also, so like that is the reason why our boys and girls psychologically, they are already affected because they are being used this name, so they get provoked. The same thing happened with Nirotania. He was mocked at his hairstyle. They mocked at his hairstyle. That's how the fight starts. So it might provoke the younger generation. That is why you need to know the difference of how the severity of the case, and also the way how racial terms are being used. So that is the difference. Yes, somebody talked about the racial discrimination which has been increased. Actually, yes, I agree with the first panelist that because the number of people coming to metro cities since 2000 they have started coming, there's a lot of push factor, unemployment, ethnic rights in the region, and also political crisis. All these issues have pushed them to come to the metro cities. Therefore, the more number you have, the more reports you'll have, the more complaints you'll have. And at the same time, some like awareness level has also increased. That is why they have come out now. They are not scared anymore, but then the number of complaints are also coming. At the same time, you also have the helpline. Northeast Support Center and helpline was started in 2007, where you wouldn't find anybody to intervene or to take care of our young people. That's where we started. And also now from 2014, you have the Spooner. After the lynching of Nirotania, after he died, that is called Special Police Unit for Northeastern Region, Delhi Police, and they have a separate helpline called 1093 in Delhi, this one. So, I mean, that is why even you have the police unit. So, that is why you get to hear more of talking, more of complaints. That is why we are seeing that more numbers are coming up. Yeah.
Thank you, Alena. And I think there is a conversation that's happening between or among participants, and one of the issues coming up importantly is also, like you all mentioned, the increasing number of out migrants that's happening from the region to other parts of the world. Kavita has been asking, she said she's from Chennai, and she's been asking, why is it that so many people from the Northeast who look like us are in the spa, right, in the massage parlors, in the salons working? Don't they find jobs anywhere else? And there's a response from Mr. Haukip. So he said he wanted to respond to that, and he has shared that work. Can we unmute Haukip, the host? Yes. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Of course you are. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry I joined this chat so late. My name is Haukip. I'm basically a law student from National Law School, Bangalore. I'm doing my 4th year here. And to respond to Kavita's question, I mean, we can talk a lot about this, but to simply say, the reason why most of us work in hotels and parlors is one, because we do not get higher education, and since there's lack of job opportunities in Northeast, because the only job you'll find in Northeast is primary school or government job. You don't find any private or anything else in that. So since we can't afford higher education, and to be honest, most Northeastern women and men are good at cooking. So it becomes easier for us to adopt those things changes outside, right? Because that doesn't take time for us to learn. It gives like in a matter of month we can learn that, cook and start selling it. And because there's a very urgent need for us to supply back home.
Okay.
I can elaborate on that, but I'll make it simple. And for guys, because
thanks for sharing your work. You're very generous, Hakib, and I'll make sure I'll tell the host that we all get to read your work. This conversation we needed more than an hour, and you know what? With the permission of the host.
Just a small question. I will end with that.
Hang on.
So, just one small question. I'll end with that.
We need to go to Marinla.
Just one question. Okay, so my background is that I left my hometown Manipur and came to Bangalore in 2001 when I was at the age of 6. So in the past 20 years, I've seen in Bangalore face constant racism every day. So we agree to the fact that there is racism. But my only concern is, since people who should address this racism should be Northeast students studying in mainland India, right? That's where we face the maximum racism. So how do we Northeast students unite together to solve this? Not just in one issue, like when virus happened, this comes up, or when it was an
All right, thank you.
Structure, we address this sufficiently.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your work. And we need to go to the fourth speaker, okay? We have Dr. Sneha, Elena is speaking amazingly. Kezo, thank you for all the insights that you've given us in terms of armed forces specials. You raise a very important issue about militarization, and we should not forget the history of militarization that's happening in the region and out-migration. So Joel, as the host, can you please bring back Maren? We need to listen to her.
Yes, Maren, you're live.
Hi, okay. Hi, can everyone hear me? Oh. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
yes, we can hear
you. Thumbs up.
Sorry, the internet keeps coming and going, so I keep losing what people have been saying. I studied in Delhi University. I studied in Hansraj College, and my experiences of studying in Delhi was amazing. I had a wonderful time because I was in my class. I was never discriminated because I looked different. In fact, I was given extra special treatment from my lecturers because they were afraid that I would not be able to understand their accent, and because we people from the Northeast, we're very shy. We're not vocal about asking questions in class and all of that. So my teachers after class would come to me personally and ask me, if you have any problems, don't be shy. Come to me anytime. You know where my room is. You can come anytime and ask me for help. That's how I was treated. So when I first went to Delhi, I was that's why I loved my college, And then of course, once outside of the
I guess we lost her again.
Then random people coming to our house after calling the cops because they thought we were cooking dog meat, because they didn't like the smell of the food that we had cooked. So we had a lot of these incidents, and it used to, and when I was younger, it used to anger me so much. It used to anger me. It used to make me wonder why, like when you're in your early 20s, you're so full of angst. The teenage angst inside you has still trickled on to your 20s till you're 25, 26. So I had a lot of anger. I was just so angry. But over the course of time, I have thinking things over. I have never really appreciated how this whole system has failed us. First of all, in educational institutions, the history of the Northeast, the geography of the Northeast is never taught properly. So a lot of people they genuinely are ignorant about the Northeast because nothing has been taught to them in their schools. You know, like when I first went to Hansraj, my classmates used to crowd around me and just ask me things about Nagaland, and they were just amazed by me. I was this thing of pure amusement for everyone. They'd be like, what language do you speak? Tell me about your food. Tell me about your family. They just wanted to know everything because their textbooks never told them anything. And I guess, and ignorance, ignorance can finally, I feel ignorance gives rise to racism in certain ways. And one thing that we've all faced when you work out of the Northeast, when you've lived out of the Northeast, is that you get called chinky. Now, what I now believe is, earlier I used to get so angry if someone called me chinky, but now I want to take the word back. I don't want my oppressors to think that they have the upper hand by calling me chinky. You know, the moment someone calls me chinky, I turn around and say, "हाँ मैं chinky हूँ, मैं बहुत chinky हूँ, मैं chinky हूँ, मैं बहुत proud हूँ कि मैं chinky हूँ," and just tell them that. The moment I tell them that, they've lost their weapon. They don't have that weapon anymore of how they can attack me and call me chinky. The moment they say "chao momo," I say, "हाँ मैं chao momo खाती हूँ, हाँ सुबह शाम morning afternoon evening मैं chao momo खाती हूँ. What the hell is your problem with that?" The moment we are not, I mean, this is my take. I refuse to get defensive because for too long we have been painted as the victim, and I'm so tired of being the victim. You know, I'm also so tired of woke publications that use us as to get brownie points for their other woke friends. You know, how approach you and
Can you hear her? No. Anyway, that's one of the, I think, yeah.
You work benefits the minorities. Show your complex. That do not treat.
Yeah, okay. So I think the connectivity is not helping us too much here, but her experiences are, I think, very important. And one of the things that I want to, as the moderator, if I may have the permission of the house,
I have experiences of it. You've never walked in my shoes, so you can't sit down and write a script. You can't sit down and write a story about my struggles when you do not know what my struggles are. That is something that really annoys me in the art form. You know, so many times when I go for an audition, there's always like, and this is very common. If you look at Bollywood, how is someone from the Northeast portrayed? She or he is going to be someone who at one time in the film is going to get racially attacked by some guy, and then this other person who is not from the Northeast is going to come and save this person's life. You know, this whole savior complex is going to happen. And my friends and I, we've talked about this, and we're like, what kind of shit is this? In the real life, we are the ones standing up for ourselves. We are the ones saving ourselves. And in your story, you have a hero who is not even from our region coming in and saving us. Like, amazing narrative, like beautiful narrative. Just make us as a little pawn so that your hero can look like someone who just does heroic deeds all the time. So that's something that I really don't like about the entertainment industry. How we have been painted as the victim, and we are nothing but the victim. Every time someone uses an actor from the Northeast, it's usually like they're like, let's take someone from the Northeast for diversity. You know, like thoda diversity dikha dete ho, so that people think like, hum woke, that we're woke. And I don't want to be that diversity, you know, the token chinky face that is sitting somewhere in your film just because you want to show people that like, hum sabko lete ho, hum north, south, east, west, sabse we've taken actors. And that is, and I feel that we're really spiraling towards that in terms of media. You know, if you look at a lot of media platforms, when they talk to someone from the Northeast, it's always the racism angle. Why have you made this whole racism thing my identity? I am more than racism. You know, I have different stories to tell. I'm a woman. I have a lot of other stories of being single, of fending for myself, of being unmarried, even though I clearly of marriageable age and should be giving birth. But no, when you see someone from the Northeast, it is always, the media always portrays us from the racism angle, because as if racism is the only thing that defines us. We are put into this box, this huge box that has been labeled as racism, and we're expected to talk only about that. We're expected to only give that narrative. And that really, really angers me. You know, you want to talk to us, talk to us.
Joel, have we lost her?
Yes, we lost her again. And
Correct.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, so we yeah, can you thank her? I think she was saying some very important things, but perhaps this is, you know, we should do a part 2 of this. I think this is amazing to see so many voices, so many connections taking place here. And if I may come in as the moderator, we are talking about racism. We are talking, and a lot of the panelists have very beautifully, very, very powerfully shared the experience. And I'm deeply, I think, disturbed, angry. You know, it's one of the emotions, sadness, one of the emotions, but also very, very committed then to carry on with this conversation. I would like to caution ourselves, and I would like to really caution the audience as you are listening to all of us, myself included, that how is it, right? If we look at racism, I'm speaking from Melbourne. Australia is a settler colony. If you talk about racism, one of the countries that come up, and you know, in terms of racist practices, regulations, legal frameworks, this is also a country where we look at it. So please let us not equate, or let us not get away by equating ignorance and racism together. If you look at colonial policies of segregation, the apartheid movement in South Africa, the Ku Klux Klan, and what happened during the time of Martin Luther King in the United States, these are deeply, deeply well-informed, educated people who were forcing for these kind of policies, right? The entire history of the stolen generation here in Australia, how much can we get away? How much of intellectual and of our political commitment can we get away by making the foundation of politics on ignorance? Yeah. When we were studying, what do you study? When we were studying, we studied everything from ancient India to medieval India to modern India. Right? So in a sense today, after writing 3-4 books, if there's somebody who's coming to ask me about the Northeast, my first reaction would be, have you read anything? I refuse, sorry. I refuse to. I'm in my 40s. I have done it since I was freaking 17. I refuse to give you a crash course on the Northeast for 2 minutes, right? If you know how to read and write, and if you're learning, if you're seeking a process of connection, read up something. In a sense, connect with it. So I've constantly have had to, in a sense, navigate this. And one of the things I tell my students, both from the Northeast, they need to read and they need to, I think, write good papers. Right? And students that I have from across Asia and across the world, right, who come and sit in my University of Melbourne classes. The kind of questions that's thrown at us from the Northeast, I want you to actually reflect, right? Is it even worth it answering, or should we just tell them that, you know, there's a book, can you read it? And so I think this is a food for thought, and I'm being provocative as your moderator, but you know, there's a limit, right, to how much we can do coaching class. Yeah. It's not about ignorance, guys, and that's your homework. And I'm saying as somebody who has worked on the Northeast, who's deeply passionate and committed to the issue of justice for more than 30 years. And I think we're cutting too much slack by narrowing down the entire conversation perhaps to ignorance. So think deep. Yeah. thinking. So definitely, I would like to give the time to our panelists. Kezo, are you there? Kezo? All right. So Sneha, would you like to say, Kezo?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Kezo, would you like to say something as we wrap this up? There's been, I think you have said some very, very important things, and you have been quiet as one of our panelists. So I would really like to give you this time to share your reflections with us. And we could not take up too many questions, but yeah, please take the time. This is time for the panelists.
Yeah, so like you have briefly highlighted earlier, why this kind of economic imprisonment that we are having here in the Northeast is also because we need to understand the political dynamics of how such has been played over the years. And again, important factors where AFSPA come into play, suppression of these minority communities. Why? Because of the movement that they've started. And this has all been done in a very surgical process, I should say. And this has also hampered a lot of the communities in progressing for their day-to-day activities. And I think that's also one reason why we are still under the scarf of economic imprisonment. I think that one has also raised why so much of women only working in the beauty parlor or in the spa. See, again, reiterating back to what I would want to say is the workday employment is just mean the collar jobs, but then the small activities that they have to do to put their families back home, because such deprivation has always been existing because of things that have not been put in place, or have been in place. That is another thing. And I think there was another question from one of them where they were saying whether any of the panelists have faced any kind of discrimination against Mongoloid speakers or this non-Muslim communities. Yes.
Okay. So Elena, would you like to say something? Yes, please.
Yeah, maybe quickly. We'd just like to say the present situation, the scenario that our youth are facing at the moment because of this lockdown. So my only worries is that where will these people, the youth, go? Because right now, because most of them are working in a spa, in a beauty parlor, in a restaurant, retails, and then some of them have also their own businesses, which they have opened their own. So everything is now a total shutdown. So the aftermath is also going to be massive and disastrous. And then they want to go home. And then here, even we're not sure if they will be able to get back to work because of course, the racist angle. If they will still accommodate them, this is one issue. If the downsizing of the whole thing takes place, then they may not even find a place to work. And then will our states, the 8 states in the region, ready to take them back? What kind of alternatives do they have when all our youths return home? So this is something we need to put in our heads and minds. And also, I urged all the political representatives in the states, all the Northeast MPs, and also all the chief ministers of the states to think about this deeply. They are any day representing us, and they are equally responsible to take care of them. So I think this is something that we need to put across together in our heads. Yeah.
Thank you, Elena. Sneha.
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing in view of the pandemic that's going on. Recently, I've gotten in touch with certain laborers who were stuck someplace, or like cancer patients who were stuck in Mumbai because they had come from treatment from the Northeast. So I just want everyone to reach out for each other, ask people if they are fine, if they need anything. But apart from the pandemic as well, considering the kind of struggle we face, whether it's racism or not, like reaching out is one of the solution, because we have to back each other up. Apart from that, I think we have to customize our approach when we deal with people who are being racist. Like there are people who can read and write, but I also deal with hospital staff who don't even know how to read. So for them, all they know is Chinese. They show me Chinese videos and they ask me, "Madam, batao na kya bol rahe hain?" And I have to explain to them कि ऐसा नहीं है, like मुझे कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. So for these people, you have to be patient. And then the third point would be just don't tolerate from educated class. Don't tolerate it from educated class. Like it's not okay. It's completely not okay. You don't have to be submissive, benign. I mean, you can't fight. Reach out. Ask for people who can come and fight along with you.
Thank you so much. And it's close to 10 p.m. here. I think Sneha made a very important point about how there are different people and the tactics they use it. Elena reminded us that the law, policymakers, politicians need to come together and really take this seriously. Gosh, man, I'm a totally horrible anchor because I'm ending up sounding like a television host who is trying to put this together. And please stop me. but and Kezo, I think you pointed out issues in terms of what's happening at the local level, national level, and in the legal field as well. I'm going to be absolutely horrible at ending this, but I really think that more conversations, more dialogues need to happen, and different ways of approaching at the end. This is a struggle, and also this is a movement that we're all in it together. So iPhone to so I give you all my love, and all of you inspire me. I have you're me, and I can see you. I can't see your face, but I can see my friend Sweetie right there. And Jaya Singh, your hand was up, and I wasn't ignoring you, but your issue about children and racism, I think it's about conditioning. And I say, as somebody who works and who lives in a settler society, right? And the conditioning is so inherently violent, evil when it comes to this kind of racist practices. So I hear you. I've seen a lot of you participating on the chat as well, and I'm giving a shout out to you all, part of the anti-racist movement, part of the anti-sexist movement, looking at justice, looking at citizenship at the core of it. And for some of you, this has been really a lifelong engagement. People like Elena have stood in the, I think, front line talking about this for the longest time, ever since I've got to know her. And Kezo, continue fighting. She was in SRLN, and she's right now, I think, doing her practice. And Dr. Sneha, I shall come to you, one day when I'm unwell. But thank you so much for coming on board, and for your calmness, and for your patience, and showing us a difference. Not in terms of anger, but in terms of how is it that we can relate to this in the professional world. So, oh gosh, I mean, I've enjoyed this so much. I think this has been a therapy for me, so far from home in Australia, but seeing all of you, people I love and I respect dearly. So, Shaalaa, perhaps we should do this again, but we should definitely do more panels like this through Zoom. I'm loving it, and I should shut up. So, so thank you so much. Would you like to
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
So I think we call it an end, and take care, and then keep in touch, right? And and we should do this again. So I'll write to some of you, and perhaps we should just do a Zoom tea or something, right? Not talk about like this stuff, but yeah, a Zoom tea. So we're gonna hold, right, Elena? Sweetie,
Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll have Zoom tea.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. All right.
Bye, Dolly.
Yes,
Yeah,
Dolly.
thank you.
Bye,
Bye,
Lana. Thank you.